This is KGW News at noon.
Good afternoon. I'm Drew Carney. Our top story this afternoon, the results from the race for Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Republican incumbent Jaime Herrera Beutler conceded defeat last night. So that leaves Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez and Republican Joe Kent in the race. Those two will square off in the November election. Herrera Beutler served 6 terms in Congress. In a statement last night, she said, "Ever since I was first elected to this seat, I have done my very best to serve my home region and our country. Though my campaign came up short this time," she said, "I'm proud of all we've accomplished together for the race, or for the place that is where I was raised and still call home." When the initial results came out last week, Herrera Beutler had a roughly 4% lead over fellow Republican Kent. But as more ballots were counted, Kent closed that gap and eventually moved ahead. So the question now is, who will come out on top come November? Speaking to a crowd of Clark County Republicans last night, Kent called for conservatives to unite and rally behind him as their candidate.
Right now, we have seen the full scope of what can get thrown at us and the unity that Republicans can have. I'm not very good at doing math, so I won't try and do it publicly. But if you look at the Republican turnout on that ticket, it will be an absolutely loud and clear message to Washington, D.C. and throughout this country that Washington 3 is one of the most conservative districts in the country.
Meanwhile, we also had a chance to speak to Gluesenkamp-Perez. District 3's Democratic candidate says she hopes to win over moderates on both sides of the aisle.
This is absolutely a winnable seat. And it's not so much about convincing folks that they need to change their affiliation. It is about an argument of what's best for the district and who has lived experience. We can't keep electing extremists and career politicians to Congress and expect better results.
Final note to this story, Jaime Herrera Beutler still has about 5 months in office. Her term in Congress will end just after the start of the new year on January 3rd. Well, before we move on to this afternoon's other headlines, let's head over to Rod Hill. Rodney, what are you checking out for us this hour?
Hey, beautiful live picture there from Timberline. You can see it is partly cloudy over the summit, and Portland will soon look like that. Here's a look at the radar. So if you live in Portland and you haven't watched the news yet today, you may not realize there was a large thunderstorm outbreak last evening and overnight that was basically south of Portland, from Salem down through Albany, Eugene, and then up and down the coast from Newport to Astoria. And this morning, or today, now afternoon, of course, we're still tracking thunderstorms that have moved through Seattle, now pushing up to the north, and we still have storms out in the Pacific, but all of that is continuing to push away from us. So we are dry. And our live sky cams, I think that one just dropped out, our Newport camera. 64 is the temperature. Newport is overcast right now. Sorry about that camera dropping out. Here's a look at Little Blue trying to come out. This is down in Yamhill County where they had thunderstorms last night. This is the Dundee Hills and Domain Serene Winery sitting up on the hill. Portland at the top of the screen, yeah, just starting to see our first breaks in the cloud cover. We are at 70, so with clearing expected the remainder of this afternoon, we'll eventually get up to 80, really comfortable stuff, and 75 at 8 o'clock. Coming up, the 7-day shows the start, I hate to say this, I really do, of our next heat wave, but we'll have that for you coming up.
All right, I suppose we'll stay tuned for that, Rod. Thank you very much. Well, let's talk about the U.S. inflation, because the latest inflation report for the country came out this morning, and it showed the consumer price index remained flat month to month. According to the report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, slight increases in food and housing costs during July were offset by a sharp decrease in gas prices. The price of gas fell 7.7% last month, while the cost of food rose 1.3%. Former President Donald Trump is in New York this afternoon. His lawyers say he took the fifth as he testified under oath today in the New York Attorney General's long-running civil investigation into his business dealings. We're also learning more about this week's FBI search of the former president's Florida home at Mar-a-Lago. Here's NBC's Jay Gray with the latest.
We now know the FBI search and seizure at Mar-a-Lago is the escalation of a back and forth between former President Trump and the Department of Justice for months before federal agents broke the locks on a basement storage area and, Mr. Trump says, opened his safe, removing about a dozen boxes from his office and private residence in Florida.
I'm sure that they're claiming that there was something, terribly egregious, that's a grave matter of national security. The problem is there are no crimes committed.
Multiple sources say the investigation is centered on sensitive, highly classified documents. Mr. Trump's personal attorney says it's driven by politics.
They're scared of Donald Trump. They don't want him to run in 2024.
We believe in the rule of law, and that's what our country is about, and no person is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
The former president hasn't officially announced,
but soon we will have greatness again,
but did post this campaign-style fundraising video online just hours after agents finished their investigation at Mar-a-Lago.
I believed he was going to run before. I'm stronger in my belief now.
Republicans have rushed to support the former president, demanding an explanation from the Justice Department, saying Mr. Trump and the GOP are being targeted. Outrage growing when late Tuesday, Representative Scott Perry, a Trump supporter, said his cell phone was confiscated by FBI agents. There's been no indication the events are connected. The FBI is not commenting on either. Jay Gray, NBC News, Washington.
All right, let's get to some local headlines now, and we start with an update about a missing 11-year-old girl from Vancouver. Her name is Alyssa Angelica Miller. She has been found by her family, so that's the update this afternoon. We first reported her missing this morning during our sunrise show after she failed to return home overnight, but Vancouver police did send out a high-risk missing child alert due to her age. Again, though, the headline here, this young lady is found and back home with her family this afternoon. Meanwhile, a Corvallis man discovered that he had been shot, although he has no idea where the bullet came from. And now police are asking the public for help. The 44-year-old says he called 911, bleeding from the shoulder. He checked the windows in his apartment and couldn't find any broken glass. Eventually, police found the bullet had traveled through the wall of his apartment and then wound up in his shoulder. He is expected to make a full recovery. Officers are now looking for the shooter, so anyone with information is asked to contact Corvallis Police. For the second time in a month, a popular restaurant chain announced it's closing one of its Portland stores. We're talking about Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel in Jansen Beach shut down abruptly yesterday. A spokesperson blamed the restaurant's performance, but employees told us that's because of safety and security. This comes after 3 Portland Starbucks stores also closed for the safety of their staff and customers. And we have an update for you this afternoon on the McKinney fire. It's now at 55% containment. It's burned more than 60,000 acres at this point in Northern California, right near the Oregon border. Some counties have now lifted evacuation orders, but things can always change and quite quickly. 4 people have been killed since this fire first started back on July 29th. All the lightning has firefighters watching things closely in central Oregon this afternoon. Over the past 48 hours, more than 100 fires have started. And we're talking about this area near the Deschutes River, Jefferson and Crook counties. Most of the fires are small right now. They're being monitored at this point. There is concern, though, as the rain moves out of the area, that these fires may continue to grow even larger. And this afternoon, we're getting a glimpse of what it's like to be forced to move over and over again. The city cleared out campers on Northeast 33rd near Marine Drive, an area that we have reported on before. KGW's Blair Best talked to those who are packing up and found Portland has a new plan to keep them from coming back.
A different kind of alarm. The sound of time running out.
But a little bit of notice could have been helpful.
Al lives in one of the trailers parked along 33rd Drive in Northeast Portland, just west of the airport. It's a hotspot for homeless campers.
It's 33rd Avenue, man. 33rd and Marine Drive. Everything goes on down here. That's why I leave during the day. I go to work, I come home, I go to sleep.
He was home on his lunch break when City of Portland crews started pushing trash onto the front of his camper.
These guys are sitting here just throwing trash from all the way down there and just bringing it all the way up to my trailer like it's mine.
He says they told him he has one day to move or else they'll tow his trailer away.
And then they just spring on me this morning that I gotta move my trailer and I have no way of doing that.
He's just the latest among those who have been forced out this week.
Yesterday was the day that They forced us to move, yeah.
Devin was living in a trailer across the street.
Right up here, actually.
He says this is the second time the Portland Bureau of Transportation has moved him and his friends in just the past 6 months.
They told us that there was about, I'd say, 5 trailers that needed to be moved, and they only gave us like 4 days notice. Not very much notice at all, especially when we don't have a truck. We had to find someone to come move our trailer for us.
It was a grueling process that lasted them 24 hours.
And that's my home. You were going to take my home. I was not going to have anywhere to stay after that.
A PBOT crews on scene tell KGW they're clearing camps that are on PBOT property and installing concrete blocks to deter more campers. We reached out to the city twice about this, but didn't hear back. Many who live on this strip say they're tired of being moved from one place to another, even if it's just across the street. They say they want more than anything to get out of this cycle.
It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good.
It's due to the fact that I don't have resources that I am forced to be out here.
Lack of available resources is one reason, but many have another struggle in common.
Drug use, honestly. And that's due to my own issues.
It's largely due to my drug use.
You can't get a break, you know. I mean, we're not having fun over here. I mean, at least I'm not. But people assume that, you know, we're having a blast over here camping, you know.
It's like a hamster wheel. Once you get out here, it's hard to get out.
In Northeast Portland, Blair Best, KGW News.